Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Yeehaw! Hey y'all, it's me, Buzz Siwa, and welcome back to Hot or Hot. And today we'll be reviewing episode 6 of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 10. The Tournament of All-Stars! I feel like my intros just get more and more annoying as time goes on. In today's episode, our queens were challenged to star in the new movie Rusical remake of Starrbooty, the Rebooty. A Rusical set in the current year where RuPaul reprises her role as Starrbooty, and two groups of queens, the Booty Squad and the evil agents of Puss, fight to save her life. So we'll be going queen by queen to break all that down, plus doing a little weekly Drag Race drama recap, where we cover some tea involving Onya Nurve's recent comments about local girls and Ru girls, and Alaska saying she's apparently blacklisted from the franchise. And because I know it's what you're here for, let's start with the drama. So there's been plenty of talk circulating around the internet about a potential All Winners 2 season, and fans have been speculating about who may or may not be cast on a potential future season of All Winners, and Alaska's name is of course one that always gets brought up. And with the way she's literally a perfect personality for television and one of the most notorious winners from the franchise, it's no surprise that fans want her there, but it seems that may not even be a possibility. And while she's hinted at having strained relationships with the World of Wonder production crew on her podcast Race Chaser with Willem, she did come straight out and say on a recent podcast with Kelly Mantle that she is effectively blacklisted from the franchise because the producers have been disappointed with her and haven't contacted her much since she began the podcast Race Chaser with Willem, who, yes, notoriously has a not-so-great relationship with that production company. This is what she said on the pod.
Why do you think that you were not asked to go back on All-Stars winners? Well,
they don't want to talk to me. And I think it comes back to the fact that I have a podcast with Willem, because Willem is sort of on the outs with World of Wonder. So when I decided we wanted to do a podcast together, Theron was like, we're really disappointed that you're doing a podcast. He didn't say that to me. He said that to someone here, like someone on my team. Now it's like a joke. It's like the door is fully closed, but I would love to go back.
And I know I speak for many when I say I'm upset at the idea of Alaska never appearing on a season of All-Stars again because she's one of my favorite queens. But it's also crazy to step back and realize that all of the AAA girls, Alaska, Courtney Act, and Willem, are all blacklisted from the franchise. All queens who are powerhouses of drag entertainment in their own rights. And it's also crazy that Alaska will probably never appear on another season of Drag Race again because they love to reuse her little pound cake character that she created. But y'all know Alaska's not seeing a penny of royalties from that. But I guess the question is, what are we as fans supposed to do? Like, do we need to start a GoFundMe? Do we need to start a protest signature signing document? Like, let's get the word out to World of Wonder that we need Alaska on our TVs for All Winners too. But guess what? It's Hot Girl Summer, and I have it on good authority that the hottest thing a hot girl can do this Hot Girl Summer is browse the internet safely and securely with the help of today's video sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Because here's the hot tea. When you connect to the internet without a VPN, you leave your most sensitive data exposed to sneaky snoopers on public Wi-Fi and even your internet service provider, who's watching everything you're doing and selling all of that data to the highest bidder. But when you use Surfshark VPN, you can connect to any one of their over 3,200 secure servers around the globe, instantly ensuring your internet browsing activity is encrypted, anonymized, and secured. Plus, finally get out of internet jail. When you virtually change your location with Surfshark, you can unblock news, social media apps, and even spicy websites that might be blocked in your home state or country. And of course, Surfshark can help you unlock geo-restricted content on streaming platforms like every season of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars and Untucked. But that's not all. Surfshark can be used on all of your devices with unlimited device login. Secure your internet privacy today by clicking the link in the description of my video and visiting surfshark.com/Bussy, or use code Bussy at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Thanks Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Next up, we've got Onya Nurve, our most recent winner of RuPaul's Drag Race, who's been coming under fire for making some interesting comments that I think have been maybe perceived wrongly about local girls and Ru girls performing during Pride Month and their compensation related to those performances. 2 weeks ago, she posted this on her social platforms. I keep seeing a lot of people I know repost this BS about not sounding ungrateful, but the Ru girls aren't the ones that need that $20, and it's honestly crazy to see y'all post that. If it wasn't for said Ru girl at the show, you would be sitting, yo, at home looking for your next gig. Pride season is the biggest money-making month of their year for everyone, and y'all want to worry about what's in the next bitch's pocket. Like, huh? Sought Marie to break it to you, but you do sound unfortunateful and mad, Pookie. If I were you, even before Drag Race, I would always be happy and grateful to be in any Ru show and any tips that came my way. If this drag ain't lucrative for you, then get off the pot, but I didn't get here by crying about lack of opportunities or money. Y'all better stop crying about every damn thing and grow up. They're in that post alluding to the fact that there have been local girls calling out the pay disparity between their local bar pay and what a Ru girl who's fresh out of the show might be charging for an appearance fee. Which is, yes, hugely different because local queens might be making $20, $50, $100 a show, whereas a Ru girl might be charging several thousand just to be there. Onya Nurve, though, apparently was not ready for this discussion to be over, and in a recent TikTok that went viral featuring her and Susie Toots sitting on a panel for a Pride gig, she said this.
If it don't make money, sometimes it don't make sense. If you ain't trying to get on Drag Race and make thousands of dollars like we making, hang it up, Pookie. Because what we do ain't no MFing hobby, okay? This is a job.
And after that video went viral and she came under fire for some of those comments, she did on June 5th post a sort of apology / clarification saying this. I want to clear up something that was taken out of context. I fully support local drag. Getting to be on Drag Race was the biggest honor of my life and career goal that I wanted to accomplish, and I want all entertainers, local or global, to strive for excellence. Growth is part of the journey, and Drag Race is one path among many. I came up in the same clubs, on those same stages. I know the hustle, the hours spent building a look, etc., etc. My intention was never to hurt, but to uplift. I will always honor the stages that built me, the queens who inspired me, and the community that made me who I am. But this is yet another post from Onya that's not receiving the best response from fans. For example, there's some people on X calling her out for allegedly using AI to craft this message, evidenced by the M dashes, which ChatGPT is notorious for overusing. And other people are still continuing to call some of her original comments, as well as this acknowledgement post, tone deaf to the realities and the pay disparity between Ru girls and local girls. But that's the LGBT. Happy Pride. And now let's move on to All Stars 10, where our final episode of the pink bracket got messy. Messalina Spears, Messly XCX, Messison Ray, Mistress Isabelle Brooks. But it was at least a wonderfully entertaining mess, which starts off with a messy MVQ ceremony, where, as a quick reminder, we begin this episode starting with Jorgeous having 4.5 points, Mistress also having 4.5, Lydia with 3, Tina with 2, Kerri with 0, and Nicole also with 0. And starting off for MVQ ceremony this week is Nicole Paige Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia, immediately giving her point to Kerri Colby, saying she wanted to finish what she started last week before she was intercepted, deceived, and lied to by Mistress. Kerri then decides to give her point to Miss Lydia Butthole Collins, which is kind of confusing to me because Lydia already had 3 points at this point, and it didn't make sense to me that she would be trying to advance someone who was at the top to be even more ahead. But I think it really was just her own little ploy to try and also receive Lydia's badge in return, which does actually end up working out for her as Lydia returns the point favor. But the big drama for the ceremony comes from Miss Tina Burner, who starts off by letting everybody know how unhappy she is with how things went last week and how she hopes this week things can be more fair so that more queens have a chance to reach the top, and she thinks it's super unfair that her queens are leaps and bounds ahead of the others. And so after her big spiel, she ends up giving her point to Nicole, but it was kind of weird because she was also very clearly hoping to get Lydia's MVQ point in this moment. And there has been something I've noticed between Tina and Lydia where I feel like Tina has an imaginary alliance with Lydia where she thinks like Lydia is gonna be trading her points and like gonna be on her team, but then when it comes down to it, Lydia never does. And Tina's mad about this, but again, like as a viewer, I'm not really watching these episodes thinking that Lydia is agreeing with anything Tina's saying in the times where Tina's asking for this alliance and friendship and yada yada yada. Lydia just sort of skirts the issue and I guess leaves Tina thinking that there's an alliance when there really isn't. But if Tina had opened her eyes for just 1 second and actually looked around the room at what was happening, she would have seen Lydia snuggling up to Mistress Isabelle Brooks and literally joining her drag family. Like, why would you think that somebody aligning with Mistress is going to be giving you a point? Make it make sense. Anyways, that concludes the first MVQ ceremony of this episode, which then follows with Mistress and Jorgeous feverishly scheming in the background of the workroom as they de-drag to make sure that they're either both in the top or both in the bottom this episode so that they can again trade points and secure their place at the top of this bracket. And Miss Tina Burner stays press through to the next day. She comes to the workroom on fire, accusing Lydia of playing the game, and where Tina even goes as far as saying that what Lydia did has completely changed how Tina feels about her in this competition. And then where she continues to complain that this should be the tournament Tournament of Champions and not the Tournament of Alliances, yet she has this whole time been in an imaginary alliance with Lydia. I don't know. And now, first up in the order they featured in the Rusical, it's Nicole Paige Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia. And Miss Nicole plays the role of Coffee, one of the lovely, good street corner workers who's trying to save RuPaul from capture. And I think the nicest thing I can say about what Nicole did in this role is that she gave it her best, and I did find her very entertaining. But we knew from how things were going in the rehearsals that this was not going to be her cup of tea. I think there was a lot more choreography than she was used to doing or even could have possibly prepared for. And even the judges who have been really nice this season don't skirt around the issue. Carson in critiques later says, bless her heart. And the guest judge and choreographer Adam Shankman even says, I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. You did everything opposite. And I think that deserves some recognition. T. And like, yes, the judges were right. Nicole totally flubbed like every single part of the choreography in this Rusical. And there was not a single step in any of the group numbers where she was in sync with her sisters. Like she was either always just a half or full step behind, or very obviously just making something up in the moment that she felt was right. At the same time that I'm saying all of the choreography she performed was bad, I do have to again acknowledge that there's just something undeniably entertaining and charismatic about Nicole that kept me engaged with what she's doing. But was this a technically good performance or worthy of being in the top this week? No, absolutely not. It was, for all intents and purposes, rotted to hell, but I still had fun with it. And over on the runway this week, her Wild Wild West fantasy is serving us a save a horse, ride a drag queen moment. And this look is really not giving. And it's also not taking anything besides my sanity away from me. And I really hate to say that this is one of the worst looks I think I've ever seen on RuPaul's Drag Race, but it just might be. The cheapness of the pink mesh bodysuit is wild on an All-Stars runway, and the way she is trying to elevate it, I think, is noteworthy with these stirrup and saddle pieces. And the way she's put the horsetail attached in the back is campy and funny. There's absolutely nothing about this look that is, as Carson describes, chic and clever. Carson said that, and I can only think that they edited those words into Nicole's critique from Another Queen, because what was he seeing that I'm not? Send this horse back to the stables because this look was a rat. But yes, like I'm here for it. Like I want more. I also want to remind you that if you want to watch Drag Race with me every single week, you can join my Patreon by clicking the link below. That's where I upload my reactions to every episode of Drag Race I review. Don't forget, click the link below to join today. And next up, get ready to turn it and burn it. It's Tina Burner, who in the challenge is playing the role of T, and who in this group I think uniquely was very good at nailing the exact choreography given to them by the choreographer. But that was also kind of, I think, her downfall here and why she didn't place in the top, because there was little extra characterization that she added to this role beyond what was provided, and she failed to elevate beyond the stiffness that the guest judge was telling her she had in rehearsals. I can't say though that she didn't look perfectly in time with what she was doing, and the stunts where she was like kicking and punching the backup dancers looked great, and her lip sync was clean. Like you could really tell this is somebody who regularly performs on stage in theatrical productions like this with lots of choreography and does it well. But considering the role of these good girl corner workers was to play into this hyper femininity, her NFL stances just didn't really match what the judges were looking for. And she was, I think, very overshadowed by Kerri, who was standing next to her in this group. Overall though, Tina's a pro and she did great in this role. I'm gonna give it a hot. And over the runway, yee yee! Miss Tina Burner is the boom boom saddle. Off the top, I've got to say this is probably the best Tina Burner look we've ever seen on the main stage. I think she looks like an elevated, draggy version of like Woody from Toy Story. And I think she looks really cool, campy, and westerny, and the way all of that rope is beautifully accentuating her face. And I love the shape and the hips, the boots, the arm covers. Everything is really cool. The details of all the star inlays on this leather are also really nice. And the only thing I'd really change about this look is the way she accessorized it, because I think the hair was a bit dark and vampy for the camp of the look, and maybe a blonde or lighter brunette would have worked a bit better here, but I'm gonna give this look a hot. And next up, she's your favorite drag queen's drag daughter's favorite drag queen's drag daughter. It's Kerri Colby, who in the challenge rounds out our good girl squad in the role of Mimi. And I've got to say, Kerri performed this amazingly. She impressed me more than any other queen on this stage tonight, and her choice to bring this almost Anna Nicole Smith energy to both the vocalizations of how she was singing the character and also in the styling of the hair, I thought was brilliant. And genuinely, she was one of the only three in this group to take the performance to the camp level that a Starrbooty performance necessitated. She also did amazing with the physicality of the character and the dancing, and I liked how she added her own flourishes and takes on the choreo, because that's what made her feel feel unique in what she was doing. And like, even the judges had almost no notes or literally 0 notes to give her about this. Like, it was compliments all around. And so yeah, I was gooped and gagged when she didn't end up in the top 2, but we'll circle back on that later. This performance was hot. And over on the runway, she says she's going for a dripping, soaking wet, but dry fantasy in this all-white cowgirl getup. And I really love the ethereal vibes that she captured with the flowiness of this look. It's really elegant and classy. And I love how angelic this look feels as she skirts across the stage, almost also tapping into some mermaid vibes. The judges, though, do critique the hat she's wearing in this look a little bit, and I can see what they're saying, because from afar, I wasn't bothered by the shape of the hat or the plainness on the underside and how it does kind of just look like folded up tissue paper. But in the close-up shots, it really does become apparent that I think a lining or some better way to cover that bottom part of the hat would have made this whole look just look a little bit cleaner. Overall, though, I'm rooting and tooting for a hot on this one. And next up is our first supervillain of the Rusical, Mistress Isabelle Brooks, who's playing the role of Foxy. And aside from her performance, what I really liked was the evil villain outfit she's wearing with the hair coming down the trim of this look. I think it's super evil and nasty and weird in a good way. And I also think she brought a good characterization to how she sang the track, giving a very villainous vibe, which probably wasn't something that she really had to try hard for, but she nailed it. Where she kind of flopped in this performance, though, was her stage presence. She looked nervous and unsure of herself, and for Mistress, that surprised me. Because like, yeah, she was struggling in rehearsals, but I thought she'd get it together a little bit better than she did. It was just that in a lot of the dance moves, she wasn't fully hitting them. Like, if the arm was supposed to be like out here, she would put the arm like here, and then the other arm like here. It was just quiet and muted. And for an evil villain, that's kind of the opposite of what we're looking for. RuPaul, though, didn't seem to mind, but she did read her down a little bit in critiques when she said, I didn't mind that her arms didn't extend as far as they could have. Anyways, I'm gonna give this performance a warming. And over on the runway this week, things don't get much better for Mistress, and I usually love her runways, but this is a rare miss from her. Let me firstly say, though, that I think the hat and the top of the outfit are really well done. I love the contrast of the black stone work with the red, yellow, and orange flame stone work, and I think the silhouette she's created, at least in that top half, is really solid, and I love the great little like hip accentuator flame details as well. There's a seriousness in this look that comes out contrasted with the camp and whimsy of what she's doing, but I do think the bottom half of this look was not quite fitting her well, looking like slightly lumpy, and then also just wasn't a great flesh tone match for her. And you know, all of this I maybe wouldn't be clocking so hard if it wasn't Mistress, who does usually come out in some really great polished pageant perfection style looks. So while she was going for a flaming hot, she did indeed end up with a flaming rat. And next up in our evil supervillains drag group, we've got Lydia Butthole Kollins playing the role of Moxie. And like Mistress, Lydia's serving in her evil villain outfit. Like, I do love an evil villain look, but these girls nailed it. Lydia's hair, mug, outfit, attitude, stage presence, the way she sings the song, everything was top tier. She really is coming into her own here right before our very eyes on All Stars. And I didn't think it would be possible for somebody to so quickly go from a regular season of Drag Race into an All-Star season and display so much growth, but she's doing it. She sounded villainous and sexy on the track. She had some great chair work choreography that she nailed. And Lydia is now really proving episode after episode that she is a star. This performance was licky licky, what is it? Licky licky mother tucking hot. It's the lyrics from the song. Licky licky. And over on the runway, her success this episode continues. This is my favorite Lydia look I have ever seen. Boots down, house up, yes God, oh period. But for real, this is the first look from Lydia that has truly gagged me to my core. I love everything about this, and maybe it's just the Texas in me, but the cow print, the denim, the way the rope is accentuating and holding the denim together down the front, the way she has a cow print cowgirl hat on in the shape of a longhorn skull. I'm gooped, I'm gagged, I'm bound, I'm chained, and I want more. Lydia, this look is gorgeous, twisted and fisted, and absolutely hot. And finally, rounding out the evil drag supervillains street corner working group, it's Jorgeous, who plays the role of Pam, the sadist. And look, since this challenge basically is just a choreographed dance number, I think it should be nobody's surprise that Jorgeous absolutely slayed this down. She hit every mark, she was on beat, she was leading her group, and at all times was just looking confident on stage. This is what Jorgeous does, and she did it so well. And I've even got to compliment Jorgeous on the mannequin face situation. She usually suffers from frozen face while she's lip syncing, but she was smiling, she was feeling her oats, like you could tell she was having a good time, and I felt that from her. This performance was My only critique for Jorgeous is that I think she could have done a better characterization with the voice acting, because she did kind of start that off with the sideways mouth thing, and you could tell she put that into the singing that was recorded beforehand, but I was missing some of that in the rest of her song, where she kind of just slipped back into singing like Jorgeous would sing. And over on the runway this week, Jorgeous does okay, coming out in a very campy Vegas showgirl meets Pink Pony Club meets Madame at the saloon in the Wild Wild West kind of fantasy, if you're still with me. And I did get the character that Jorgeous was going for immediately. Like, the saloon girl thing is definitely something I've seen in all of the Western tropes in TV and movies. And this was cute, but I don't feel like it was super fashion forward or different for Jorgeous, who does do a lot of these bright, campy dance costumes. But then again, when you're doing your third lap around the drag race block and you know what works for you, why mess that up? Overall, I give this look a safe hot. Which brings us to our placements this episode, and the judges decide this week to put Jorgeous and Lydia as the top two, which was kind of confusing to me, because here's the tea. I don't think that either of these queens are undeserving of a top placement this week. They both did a really great job, but what I tend to look for in a Rusical, more so than did a queen nail the choreography, did they show up for the performance, yada yada, is like, did they entertain me with a really interesting performance or take on a character? And as I mentioned, I felt Jorgeous's was giving the character with a little extra, but Lydia was giving a lot extra, and Kerri Colby was giving a lot extra. So I was sitting here thinking that the top two easily were going to be Kerri and Lydia. And with Kerri getting literally no negative critiques about her performance, I just don't get why she wasn't in the top. To me, I think I'm smelling yet another reg. But anyways, it is what it is. Nothing matters, and it's All Stars and it's reality TV first, competition second. And we have Jorgeous and Lydia lip syncing to Texas Hold'em by Beyonce, which, like, let me just say very first, is a song that I like, but not one that I'm sure was the best choice for a lip sync track. But here we are. And my feelings on this lip sync performance are kind of mixed. I think the queens did good in their own ways. Like, Jorgeous had her little perfect cheerleader choreography for every single word of the song, which is very entertaining to me to watch, but then wasn't giving very much in the face, whereas we've got Lydia giving a more fast and loose performance, completely eye-effing the judges and camera with her lip sync. But I do feel some of the way she was dancing to this felt a little underprepared compared to the way Jorgeous was dancing. I actually do agree with the judges here in that I think Jorgeous won this lip sync, but then again, this was another case where I think the edit of this lip sync was definitely in favor of Jorgeous, but that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what y'all thought about that in the comments below. So Jorgeous wins this lip sync, and now both Lydia and Jorgeous are essentially all but confirmed for the next bracket, but the third queen is still up in the air, and we've got a second most valuable queen ceremony to finish up with. And what I really love seeing as the queens were being sent to the back of the stage after the top two were decided was Nicole Paige Brooks immediately doing math on her fingers to figure out with Tina how to keep Mistress from progressing into the next bracket and to instead send Kerri Colby. Iconic behavior. Again, like, I could watch her on Drag Race all day. But unfortunately, this was like way too little scheming, way too late from her and Tina. Like, had they had this mindset a week or 2 weeks ago, yeah, like, they probably could have kept Mistress out of the next bracket, but they didn't, and instead they got played. Because even though they're sitting here saying that they're going to give their points to Kerri and they're hoping that Mistress will give hers to Kerri as well, we all know that Mistress would not do that over her dead body with an oath made to God standing on her mother's grave. She just wouldn't. And hell, I wouldn't either if $200,000 were on the line. And because Mistress can also do math like Nicole Paige Brooks, this scheme is over before it ever started, and the MVQ ceremony plays out like this. Nicole first gives her point to Kerri, Tina then gives hers to Kerri, putting her with 4 points, which means yes, Kerri needs Mistress's point to go to the next bracket. Kerri then gives her point to Tina, I guess as a nice gesture, and sure enough, to no one's surprise, Mistress ends up giving her points to Lydia. They're securing her place in the semifinals of All Stars 10. And while this is all fine and dandy and went as expected, what really gagged me during this ceremony was Mistress playing in Kerri's face and bad-mouthing her in front of the judges. Like, this was crazy, but she says out loud as she's awarding her point to Lydia, "I did tell Kerri I was going to give her my point, and I do think she did well, but I knew she was going to be a fake bitch and not give me her point, so I give my point to Lydia." And as far as Kerri's response to this villainous nonsense, she does in a confessional later say, "You know what? I am a fake bitch to you, girl, because like, what the F? You've been nothing but fake this entire competition and you really effing tried me. And I know you feel like for that, you bitch." Which is also something I wish she would have just said, like, in front of the judges right there to Mistress's face, because, like, she needed to hear it after what she said about Kerri. But Kerri is, I guess, in her congenial era and only says things in confessionals and not to the other queens' faces, just like last week's Rap and Roast. And now for my final thoughts on this very messy pink bracket. Well, I think it's very clear now, having seen 2 brackets, that the producers know exactly who they want to progress into the semifinals and are gonna do whatever it takes to make their vision of what they see happen. Because you'll remember that in the finale of the orange bracket, Olivia Lux was effectively robbed of any chance of progressing on, where she was given such good critiques that I thought surely she would win, and you'll remember was even told by Michelle that her drag makeover was like an example of how a drag makeover should be done, yet she still wasn't placed into the top. And now here, the same thing again has effectively happened with Kerri, where the judges are basically like, you did great, but we don't care about you, I guess. And I would be suspending my belief in this conspiracy a little bit more if it were not for some of the heavy-handed production tactics that they're using to absolutely make sure that the queens they want to progress into the top progress to the top, like last week's split point debacle, which effectively just felt like an early closure to the bracket when they gave the half points away to Mistress and Jorgeous. And I think it's also a shame now, having seen 2 brackets, that the older queens from the franchise appear to be unable to keep up, or at least unable to impress the judges in the way the newer queens do. Both Phoenix and Nicole, I think, have had amazing reception amongst the fan base and have revived their careers, which is amazing for them. But it is a little sad to watch them get the lowest amount of points and not get MVQs from their peers and just kind of overall sputter. But at the end of it all, as transparent as all of this rigmarole in this season is, I actually am really enjoying it for what it is. Reality TV, and all of the nonsense and shenanigans and buffoonery from Mistress and Jorgeous are making the season super enjoyable. And so, like, I'm not mad that they're progressing into the semifinals, because we're gonna get some more pot stirring and craziness and drama, but I am gonna miss the likes of Nicole Paige Brooks. And now for hottest hots. In the challenge, I'm gonna give it to Kerri Colby, and on the runway, I'm gonna give it to Lydia Butthole Kollins. And I also asked my patrons to vote on their hottest hots, and this week they've chosen Lydia B Kollins on the runway and Lydia B Kollins in the challenge. Oh, and please don't forget about today's sponsor. I've loved using Surfshark to secure my internet privacy for several years now, and I know you will too. Just visit surfshark.com/Bussy or use code Bussy at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Oh, and Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in just trying it out. And I also want to give an extra special shout out to Ashton, Felicia, JBR, Laura, Matthew Burns, Mikal, Meetst, and Will and Tanner, who are all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier at patreon.com. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye.